Oklahoma Gardening is a production of the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the land grant mission of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University, dedicated to improving the quality of life of the citizens of Oklahoma through research-based information. Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, Tulsa's source for great gardens, southwoodgardencenter.com, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping to keep Oklahoma green and growing.
Today on the Best of Oklahoma Gardening, host Casey Hentges looks at some great natives and other tough plants for you to consider adding to your garden or just enjoying as you drive through the Oklahoma landscape.
Native plants are all the rage these days, and we are here at Prairie Wind Nursery in Norman, Oklahoma, where Bill Farris has been growing natives long before they were popular. And your mission really is not only to grow natives, but also just other plants that do really well in Oklahoma.
Right, as we like to say, plants that not only survive but thrive in Oklahoma's climate.
That's what we're all looking for. And you've got a few for us here to share with us.
You bet.
What's this one here?
This is Malvaviscus, or Turk's cap. It's not necessarily native in Oklahoma, but this fills a lot of little niches. It's a tremendous hummingbird plant. They love this plant, but this plant will grow in the shade. So we're always looking for good ornamental perennials that will tolerate some shade, and this is a great one for that.
And it'll bloom just as much in the shade.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
Okay, and hummingbirds love it?
Yes, you bet.
Perfect.
One of their favorites.
So how large will that shrub get?
It's going to not get a lot taller than this, but it will fill out. Okay. It'll be more of a shrub.
Okay, all right. And then what do we have here? A couple of ground covers next to us.
Right, and this is a carex called Little Midge, and we're going to use this in place of monkey grass as a shade ground cover. It's got some very intricate, delicate looking foliage and something that's got a little bit more interest than your regular old monkey grass.
Yeah, I love the texture of that.
Yes, the bright green.
Very nice, very nice. I bet it looks great in a mass too.
It certainly does. And then another one here, this is our Oklahoma native.
I know this one, turkey tangled frog fruit.
Right, tongue twister.
It is.
Flora. And you can see the little pineapple flowers there. But of course this has been growing in a pot in the greenhouse, so it's not quite as dense as it would be as a ground cover application outside. But this will tolerate some shade, is a good ground cover for rough areas. I found it growing just out in the middle of nowhere in the creek bottoms and bar ditches around the state. It's a very tough, durable plant.
And that one's going to kind of run across your ground,
yes.
right? Okay.
It'd spread and be really dense.
Now, on the carex, will that do the same, or will that kind of spread through underground rhizomes?
Yes, no, it will spread.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
You better. And then this is the Solidago, Wichita Mountains. I believe that Steve Biebrick of Sunshine Nursery introduced this into the trades a few years back. Of course, all the Solidagos seem to be good for Oklahoma, but this one's a little better behaved than some. So if you don't want something that's going to be a problem and take over, this is a good selection for you here.
And then this one, we don't want to touch it too much. It's a little prickly, but
yes,
has a beautiful flower on it.
The prickly poppy, beautiful poppy type flower, excellent nectar source for the insects, bees, pollinators of all sort. Very interesting foliage. Seed heads are very interesting and intricate. They are a little bit prickly. They will stick you just a touch if you get too close to it, but it's not like a cactus or anything, so not too bad at all.
And all of these are perennials, right?
The prickly poppy is sometimes perennial.
Okay.
It's mostly an annual.
Okay, all right, perfect. And then we've got something down here that has a fragrance to it. It smells a little like a marigold.
You bet. That's the Tagetes lamani, or the Copper Canyon daisy. It is in the marigold family. You can tell by the flower. Has a very unusual fragrance. You can use this as effective, if not more so, than the mosquito plant. The fragrance keeps the mosquitoes away. Don't rub it on your skin, just rub it on your clothing. Okay. You'll smell good and the mosquitoes will leave you alone.
Well, great. And it has this gold copper color to it.
Yes, and it blooms in the fall. It's if you're familiar with the Tagetes lucida, the Mexican mint marigold, it has kind of the same bloom cycle as it does, and great fall color.
So these last three are all full sun, correct?
Yes, you bet.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing these great plants with us.
Thank you.
There might be a wildflower that's out in the prairies grabbing your attention in late summer, and that is Snow-on-the-Mountain, or Euphorbia marginata. And while it typically only gets about 3 feet tall out in the rocky sandy soil that it prefers to grow in prairies, in a landscape situation it might get over that 3-foot height. Now, what we often think of as the flower, this white look, is actually bracts. It is related to the Euphorbia poinsettia that we're familiar with. And like the poinsettia, it doesn't have traditional flowers. It has very inconspicuous flowers, but the showy part is this modified leaf, or what we call a bract, that has the white margins to it. If you do introduce this into your home landscape, you want to be cautious, because while it is a native annual, it is a prolific reseeder. So you might find the following year that you have a few more than you anticipated. Now, the best way to kind of deal with those seedlings as they come up, you'll notice that they kind of have this grayish bluish foliage that really sets them apart from a lot of other weeds that you might find in your landscape. And so they're pretty easy to pull. When you're weeding this out of your garden, you want to be careful, because it is in the Euphorbia family, which means that it has a latex sap that it secretes when the stem is broken or the leaves are broken. And some people find this to be a skin irritant, especially if you're allergic to latex and things like that. Now, this plant is called Snow-on-the-Mountain Euphorbia marginata, but it might be mistaken for another plant that looks very similar to it called Euphorbia bicolor. And the difference is that the bicolor species has a little bit longer, more narrow bract, and it's aptly named Snow on the Prairie.
We're here at Real Claremore, out at Jennifer Pekowski's residence. She's got 20 acres of all kinds of different horticultural delights, and one area that we wanted to highlight today is her wildflower plots. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on Oklahoma Gardening.
Sure.
And this is kind of a really neat wildflower area that you can kind of tell us a little story about in the midst of the liatris blooming.
Yeah, and this isn't my wildflower plot. This is nature's wildflower. I had nothing to do with this.
Really?
The only thing that I did was recognize what was coming up and let it go.
Cool. So
we mowed just a slim little path down the middle, and then one, of course, down the fence line to maintain fence lines. You know what that's like. Mm-hmm. And then just let them come up. Every fall I'll strip the heads and scatter some more. But this is nature. I had nothing to do with this.
Well, that's really interesting, because I think most people do have that idea that for wildflowers to arise, you have to, plant some out there, but
no.
Now you're living proof in a way that, if you just let the grasses and the nature grow, that a lot of wildflowers will come along with it.
Leave it alone and they will come.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's also some native grasses here too, which is a neat sign that nature takes care of itself.
Sure.
So, do you know several of the different wildflowers that you got here?
Well, there's a false indigo that was blooming earlier in the spring.
Right.
And I think we just learned that this one is slender mint.
The type of slender mint.
Slender mint.
Yeah.
And yarrow, of course, has come and gone. That's an early season.
Right.
And the coreopsis has come and gone. That's
right.
early season too. Walking down a little bit farther down the path is tall rosin weed. And we have bee balm, a lot of bee balm. It likes the partial shade out here.
Right.
And
Rattlesnake master, I think we
rattlesnake, yep.
named that. And
a lot of thistle. That's okay.
Right.
It's amazing how many butterflies and moths love thistle.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
Some milkweed showing up, it looks like.
Oh, we have the low white milkweed. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's the antelope milkweed. Yep, that comes and goes pretty quickly. But everything has its season. So once the liatris dies down, we've got some of the sunflowers. We have the hairy sunflower. We have the Baldwin, I think is ironweed.
Right, Baldwinia.
Field.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, that's
fun. It's
great.
fun just to stroll and to see
It is.
what's new.
And
And
it's-
passion vine. There's a ton of passion
Oh,
vine. over
yeah.
here. So that's the tall rosin weed. And in front of this, there's a purple,
Yeah.
right? And it looks like a petunia. Mm-hmm. Yep, right in there.
And of course, up in the other areas, you've got some native Mexican hat.
Yes, we have native Mexican hat, and then in the shade areas, we have inland sea oats.
Yeah,
Just
nice stand of that.
Huge
right.
clumps of inland sea oats. I love it. A good
And
shade grass.
You found and transplanted some verbena that's naturally.
Oh, the pink verbena.
Occur?
Yeah,
Right.
that's so pretty. Yeah, it smells really good. And it blooms all summer. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize it would do that. And this got the bee balm. Bee balm in here. It's just finishing, and then a lot of bee balm down farther too.
Right. That's what's amazing is that, I think we've mentioned maybe 10 or 15 varieties already. And of course they are native here, but just to let nature grow and to say, hey, this just came about on its own, that's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
And we do have to take it down in the fall. We brush hog in about late November.
Okay.
Or late October, early November. So brush hog everything down, and then we come back and mow over it with the mower, and that keeps all the sumac down and the trees down and gives space for the seeds to go in.
Good.
But that's all we do.
And we've had a really fortunate rainy kind of spell
This has
and
been a
nice,
great
decent
year.
spring this year
This has
too.
been
So
a
that's been
perfect year
a
for
boon
some-
for
yeah.
that.
Yep. And then the whole entrance are black-eyed Susans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We saw those when we were coming in.
Yeah, I've had to teach my husband how not to mow over them.
A lot
know
of
that.
black-eyed Susan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's nice to have the contours too and the trees that surround it rather than just being out in the bare open area.
Flap, yeah.
Well, Jennifer, I appreciate you having us out.
Sure. Thanks for
and
coming out.
showing us off your wildflower plots.
Happy to.
It's just amazing to see what nature can do when left to its own devices.
When you
right?
don't spend all day mowing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let it
There's
go.
a 2 or 3-fold benefit, you know. Gets more butterflies and moths and skippers out.
Bees, yep. A lot
Right.
of native bees out here too.
Great. Well, we really appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks for coming.
All right.
Here with Amy Buteau, who's with the Oklahoma Biological Survey, and we are at the base of Black Mesa, just north of Kenton, Oklahoma, and basically as far west in the panhandle of Oklahoma as you can get. In fact, we're on mountain time out here. And Amy, we came out to talk a little bit about the ecology that you see here. Can you tell me about what's going on behind us?
Well, Casey, as you said, we are at the base of Black Mesa here in Cimarron County. This is the shortgrass prairie. We're kind of gradually edging into a pinyon juniper woodland. The juniper here is not the eastern red cedar that most of your viewers are probably
And
familiar
they look
with.
very similar.
They
but-
do look very similar. The differences are minute. You have to look at the little leaves under a scope and things like that. Really, really picky botany type stuff. It also sort of has a different growth form, as you can see, more bushy.
Okay.
We also have pinyon pine here, which is obviously not in the rest of the state. This is the only place in Oklahoma where pinyon grows. As we go further up the mesa, we will see more of that.
Okay. So we have the one-seeded juniper and the pinyon pine here. And you touched on some of the grasses. We have one of those grasses here in front of us. A lot of us as horticulturists and gardeners know this as a blonde ambition cultivar, but this is the native blue grama grass.
Yes,
correct?
this is Bouteloua gracilis, or
Okay.
blue grama grass. It is actually pretty much one of the dominants here where we're standing.
And it looks just lovely out here. It's a nice wispy grass.
It's a beautiful grass.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the other forbs that we're seeing around here. One that's catching our eye right away is this, it's a senecio.
This is a senecio. This is the thread leaf ragwort, Senecio flaccidus. And as you can see, it's more of a shrubby type plant. Beautiful blue-green foliage. I think it would look great in the garden. I don't know if it's in cultivation, but I would certainly want it in my garden.
Yeah, and in fact, there's some other composite plants that we're seeing around here. There's a couple of daisies, and I think I even saw the chocolate daisy. Is that correct?
It is, it is. This is Berlandiera lyrata, or another name for it is lyre leaf green eyes. It's a
Because
member
it
of...
kind of has this sort of look after the petals fall off.
It
right?
is, yeah, that's exactly why. It does smell like chocolate, as you mentioned it, specifically the center part right here when it's fresh. It has just this odd chocolate-like aroma.
It does. It smells a little cocoa-like.
It's really nice. It's a beautiful plant. I like how the rays underneath are sort of purple with little stripes.
Yeah, and so the sepals then give it that green eyes common name.
Indeed.
And they actually kind of dry nicely as well, too, there.
They do, and I think they seed well as well.
Excellent. All right, so we've got a few succulents around here too. We've got some yucca. And is this just our common yucca that we have here? Or?
Yes, this is Yucca glauca, or the soapweed glauca. Another name is Spanish bayonet. And if you touch the end, you can see why it is named that, because it is very sharp.
Yeah.
And yeah, actually right here it's kind of prickly, so ouch. Anyway, it's one of our succulent plants.
But it's not the only one. We've got prickly pears and choyas out here. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
This is actually an Opuntia species, or a prickly pear. Black Mesa has about 4 different species of prickly pears. And we also have the tree choya, which is actually a Cylindropuntia. You can see in the background it makes nice yellow fruits. And this is a plant that's actually becoming more and more common out here at Black Mesa. Years ago, you wouldn't see this much tree choya. This is actually a result of overgrazing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, cattle have come in and eaten the grasses. Obviously, they don't want to eat the tree choya, so consequently, you have more tree choya.
All right. So Amy, it looks like here we have got some of that dead choya actually, and I think a lot of homeowners use this in their landscape but might not realize that it comes from the choya plant. This is the dried skeleton, if you will, basically.
It is. It's really cool looking, and I know I have some mixed in with my sedums at home.
But what is surrounding this? It looks like an aster. I mean, it's a gorgeous little plot here.
It's not technically an aster.
Okay.
Its common name has the word aster in it, but you know, scientific names and all. This is the tansy leaf tansy aster.
Okay.
Very beautiful plant. It's common out here. It blooms pretty much throughout the growing season, from May through, you know, first frost. I even looked this morning and I saw a record from Cimarron County from January, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Beautiful plant.
So reseeding perennial?
I think it is. I
Okay.
believe it is, yes.
All right. And then we have a little purple sneaked in here that looks like our regular verbena.
And
that
that
we
it
often
is.
see.
That is common out here in the shortgrass prairie.
Okay. And here in our grasses, our gaillardia. We can't get very far without keep seeing different plants here.
Nope. This, believe it or
The
not,
yellow gaillardia.
is a gaillardia, well, related to the blanket flower that most of us know. This one is different in that its leaves are dissected or pinnate, as we say. The common name, I believe, is red dome blanket flower.
Wonder where it gets that name.
Don't know. Beautiful plant.
All right, and we've seen a few other plants along the way. There was a sand lily. Tell us a little bit about that plant. It's got a beautiful white flower.
It is. I didn't realize it, but I guess that flower opens up in the afternoon. We drove through to Kenton and saw fields and fields of it. Absolutely gorgeous. It has a lot of stamens, so it gives this kind of lacy look. It's got really sticky leaves, and you know, they'll stick to your clothes, they'll go through the wash, you can't get rid of them. But it's a beautiful plant.
But not sticky in the fact like a succulent that might stab you or something, a cactus.
More like a Velcro that will never go away.
Right, and then the zinnia that we saw.
The zinnia, we actually have a native zinnia here in Oklahoma. It is the Rocky Mountain zinnia. It forms these beautiful golden mounds. It's a plant that I believe would probably work really well in a rock garden.
Very short profile.
Very short, very kind of prostrate plant, beautiful.
Excellent. So Amy, we're in a different location. We're now at the Etling Lake in the Black Mesa State Park, just a little bit further from the actual Black Mesa. And so being in a more wet condition, we're finding a few different plants here.
Yes, yes. This pretty guy is the copper globe mallow. It's actually in the same family as hibiscus, and if you look closely at the flower, that is quite evident.
Oh yeah, definitely has a mallow-like flower to it.
This is a beautiful plant, and I wish I had it in my garden.
I love the color of it. Yeah, it's a nice color here.
It's a really unique color for a flower,
right.
I would think. I normally don't see that.
So, and it looks like pollinators are enjoying it quite a bit too.
Yes, they are.
So we mentioned how important the grasses are to the shortgrass prairie, but we hear about Old World bluestem a lot, and I know we have some of it here. Can you tell us a little bit about Old World bluestem versus some of the other grasses we might find around here?
Old World bluestem, which is this fellow right here, is an exotic invasive grass that is found in Oklahoma. As we drove into the park, you could see it all along the roadsides. I believe it was brought in for cattle, and you know, as so many things do, it escaped. You can tell Old World bluestem apart from our native silver bluestem by its inflorescence. Old World bluestem has these little individual fingers that you could sort of pull apart and see, little wavy fingers. Whereas our silver bluestem, which is right next to you, doesn't have those little fingers. It has little tiny branches, but they're kind of stubby, and they just don't really make you think of fingers. And plus, it's really kind of fuzzy and white. Again, this is a native species, but it is also found in sort of degraded areas, like pastures and overgrazed sort of places.
Well, Amy, this has just been fantastic. We've enjoyed walking around and exploring the native areas with a botanist and seeing your hand lens out and looking at some of the plants a little closer. So thank you for sharing this information with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oklahoma homesteaders are some of the most resilient and determined people who've created legacies for families all across our state. Stories of settling the West, statehood, and the Dust Bowl are ingrained in every Oklahoman at a very early age. While we can visit museums, talk with our elders, and read about the past, there are other reminders that we might come across as well. Plants such as roses, lilacs, daylilies, spireas, and irises often conjure up memories of our grandparents. And it's no wonder, because just like our grandparents, these plants have shown resilience and determination in some of the toughest conditions. These plants are the ultimate in low maintenance, being exposed to whatever the weather brings. Freezes, high winds, droughts, surviving without proper water and nutrition, and proving to be resistant against diseases and insects, surviving against all odds. Oftentimes, as gardeners, we get wrapped up in the latest cultivar, whether it's a double flower or a new foliage variegation. Or perhaps we can plant that plant because it only gets 3 to 4 feet tall now, rather than the traditional 6 to 8 feet tall. With all of these new options to customize our garden, we may also be getting plants that are a little more susceptible to other aspects. Just like myself and the other generations that have come after our grandparents, we too have more options to go and do and be something different. But it's always important to remember our roots and the value and beauty of the generations before us.
There are lots of great horticultural events this time of year. Be sure and consider these activities when you're making your plans for the weeks ahead. Next week, we'll be looking at some more great plants for your garden, from flowers to shrubs to cool specimen plants that make your friends say, wow! We hope you join us then for more of the best of Oklahoma gardening and TV you'll grow to love. To find out more information about show topics, as well as recipes, videos, articles, fact sheets, and other resources, including a directory of local extension offices, be sure and visit our website, oklahomagardening.okstate.edu. And we always have great information, answers to questions, photos, and gardening discussions on your favorite social media as well. Join in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find this entire show and other recent shows, as well as individual segments on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And tune in to our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel to watch segments from previous hosts. Oklahoma Gardening is produced by the Oklahoma Cooperative Extension Service as part of the Division of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources at Oklahoma State University. The Botanic Garden at OSU is home to our studio gardens, and we encourage you to come visit this beautiful Stillwater jewel. We wish to thank our generous underwriters, Southwood Landscape and Garden Center, and the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry. Additional support is provided by Pond Pro Shops, Greenleaf Nursery and the Garden Debut Plants, and the Oklahoma Horticultural Society.